Hi, my name is Sally Jane, otherwise known as Pink Hair Girl on Ravelry, and this is my first video podcast. My long-suffering husband seems to cringe every time I say the words, "I've had an idea." I think the problem is I'm an ideas person, so I come up with these ideas all the time, and then he's the one that's left to sort of put the whole thing or to do the logistics for whatever I'm trying to do at the time. So I'm really grateful to him. He's set up something here for me so that I can try this out and see how it goes, see if I like it, and see what the response is like, and maybe make this a more regular thing. This first video, I'd really just like to do an introduction, who I am, a bit of my knitting history, and then from next time I'll make it a bit more sort of regular features and have a more of a structure to it. So to tell you a little bit about me, I live in Cape Town in South Africa on the west coast. I'll try and include a map for those of you that are not as familiar with South Africa so that you can see where that is. I grew up in Pretoria, which is the more northern inland part of South Africa. But again, I'm hoping that during these series and podcasts and stuff, I can tell you a bit more about this country and a bit more about the different places and my memories and things like that. I'm actually in the process of writing a book patterns inspired by South Africa, and patterns include stories, my memories in different places, and inspired by scenery and various things around South Africa. I'm working with a landscape photographer, Andre van Rooyen, and part of the reason I wanted to do these was that I tend to be a bit verbose actually, and so I can, even in writing, I can want to write so much more than there really is space for, especially in a book. An ebook's not so bad, you're not space limited, but I suppose the vanity in me really just wants to have a printed book. I kind of want to say, like, this is my book, even if I'm the only one that actually ever prints a copy of my book. And so the idea was to go for something a bit like a coffee table / knitting book, to give knitters a bit of a feel for South Africa, some beautiful pictures, Andre's, of the scenery, the landscape, things like that, and then combine that with the knitting patterns. And each pattern has an inspiration section in which I write my story and why and how the pattern came about. But it might be that I'm finding I actually want to say a little bit more than is practical, especially when you've got space considerations for a book and you don't want it to be too massive. So I thought that these podcasts might be a way to kind of tell a bit more of the story, like flesh it out a little bit more around each of the designs, and show you a few more of the pictures maybe, and the process and the people behind it and all the rest. So that's really what these are about to start with, and I think I'll include the typical sections that are in most sort of podcasts as well, work in progress and finished objects and all that kind of thing. It's always fun to see what people are knitting, and I always get ideas from other people's knitting and projects, so it's really quite nice to see that. So that's really the layout and format that I thought these blog posts would take. I'm also hoping that people will give some comments about what they'd really like to see, especially those that aren't in South Africa, what kind of things they'd like included about South Africa. I don't know if people are interested in the different areas or the cultures or the food or I don't know, let me know, and hopefully I can include things that people find interesting. I'm really hoping to include something on the different fiber artists here in South Africa and the designers, and we've got some really lovely dyers here in South Africa, indie dyers, and I hope to feature some of those in these podcasts too. So that's a little bit why I decided to do these podcasts, and it just seemed like something different, something a bit fun. I just had an idea, so here we go. A little bit, I don't know, I'm always interested in stories. I love stories. I think all my patterns have stories attached to them. I think we've lost the art of storytelling, and I think so many cultures around the world knew how important it was to tell stories. It connects people. You find something that resonates with you, and you're not going to resonate with everybody's story, but it's, I think stories connect us. We can hear something a bit deeper about somebody, connect on a slightly different level or whatever. So I thought I'd tell you the story of my sort of knitting career, or my knitting history, per se, and how I started knitting. I have knitted, I think, pretty much all of my life that I can remember. I think I must have started at about 6. Both my mom and my gran knit. My mom's a great crafter and does just about everything. She cooks well, she sews well, she knits beautifully. I can only ever hope to do half the things that she does as well as she does. And so it was quite natural for me to learn to knit as a child. I remember the usual acrylic yarn, big needles, and being so frustrated with it in the beginning. I just couldn't, the stitches would drop, or you weren't sure which part you were supposed to be putting the needle into, or which way around the needle was going, and asking her so many times to fix it, or fix the hole, or which way now, or how do I start the row, and all of these things. And I still remember it so clearly. I remember the frustration of not being good at something. And I think I'm very like my daughter in that I like to be good at things even in the beginning. But with patience and whatever, I've become better. And I think one of the sort of key elements of my knitting history, or the thing that sort of shaped my knitting history maybe, was finding a knitting book, a knitting stitch dictionary of my mother's. And it was a long, thin book, kind of a sort of soft cover book, and each page was sort of divided into various stitch patterns on each page. And I just decided to work my way through this book. And I, in various rainbow colors of acrylic yarn, I cast on squares and made squares of all the patterns in the book. I started with the simple garter stitch and rib and fisherman's rib and all these different kinds of things. And if there was a term I didn't know, something I didn't understand, I would just ask my mom. And so it kind of demystified all the what seems complicated in knitting, and it just became a process of learning to read the stitches, learning to read what stitches do. And I made cables, and I made bowls, and I did lace, and I knitted all these random, very peculiar looking squares, some that looked better than others. I remember being asked once, what was I making? And without hesitating, and I'm not really sure that I'd ever thought about it before, I said, I'm knitting my husband's jersey. And I understand jersey is not really a word that's used out of South Africa all that much. I guess it's like a pullover or a sweater or something like that. So I was knitting a sweater for my husband. Fortunately for my husband, this great goal of turning all of these rainbow-colored squares into a jersey never quite came to fruition. I think it would have made Joseph's Technicolor dream coat pale in comparison. But anyway, hopefully they were donated to charity or something. I should actually ask my mother. Hopefully they were donated to charity and made up into some sort of a charity blanket after I left home and went to university. So that was where I started. I think the foundation of knowing so many stitches and just not feeling intimidated by patterns or stitches or whatever has really helped me as I've gone along and knitted different patterns, and then as I've gone into designing, because it just gave me a good foundation to be able to read knitting, to see what knitting should look like. When does it look right, and when is the tension right, and all the rest. So that was, I fortunately progressed from multicolored acrylic squares, and my husband does not have to wear the threatened sweater. So that's kind of how I got into knitting, and I've always knitted since then. I'm not a crocheter at all. My mother didn't crochet, so it was something I never learned to do until recently, actually, inspired by my friend Heidi Bears, that makes the Heidi Bears African flower animals that are extremely popular on Ravelry, and for good reason, because they're exceptionally cute. But I will leave showing you and telling you all about my African flower animals and my learning to crochet for another day. Just to say that I say my crochet skills are totally beginner. I can literally make Heidi Bear's African flower pattern that I followed and learned how to do from her blog, and that's it for my crochet skills. So I really am a knitter at heart, and just have been doing it. I know some people say for beginners it's much easier to learn crochet if that's what you learn first, but I'm just so used to being a knitter that that's just kind of my go-to. It's the skill I prefer, my kind of go-to. So as I said, I wasn't going to do too much of a structured segments this time. I'd like to kind of follow up in future videos with that. And you have to excuse me for knitting rather frantically on these socks. It is my husband's birthday on Tuesday, which I have only just really twigged how close that is. I've been doing them for ages, but kept putting them aside and doing other things in between because I had so long before his birthday. And now I really don't. I literally have today and tomorrow, and then by Tuesday morning they need to be ready. And I have left myself rather a lot of sock to finish. But anyway, there we go. I'm trying to finish them. But there is really this time one finished object item that I'd like to share with you, because it's got a story, because it's got a history, and one that's quite meaningful to me at the moment. Part of the Nurturing Fibers Pattern Club last year, I designed a pattern called Dragon's Hope. It was for a friend of mine, Yvette, who was diagnosed with 4th-stage melanoma, and she was just about to start chemotherapy. Yvette loved dragons. She has loads of little dragon statues and pictures, and was really into dragons. Her Ravelry name is Mage Pendragon. And so I designed this shawl with a kind of a dragon skin or dragon scale stitch for the body of it, and then going off into what's supposed to look like the wings on the edges of it. And my friend died recently at 32, which just felt really young for anybody to die. And to kind of come to terms with that, and to my way of working it through, was to knit the Dragon's Hope shawl again. And I just felt that the pattern needed to be free. So I changed it. The pattern is now free on Ravelry, called Dragon's Hope, and I'll link that in the show notes. And her favorite color is purple. And I've put here, this is the brochure from her memorial service. And as you can see, like, they even did it in purple. She was so known. She used to have purple hair. And I met her on Twitter, and she was also a geek and kind of into geeky things and knitting and dragons and fantasy and all of these things. So we hit it off, and we knitted together a few times. And so she used to have purple hair. I guess that was also another sort of connection we had. She had also funky coloured hair. And so I found some purple yarn in my stash, and I started knitting the Dragon's Hope in kind of remembrance of her. And I started a knit along on my group. It's not got a time limit. It's kind of one of those things that people can join using the free pattern at any point. Like maybe just they want to honour Yvette's memory and just knit along and make a purple shawl, or maybe they know someone that's just about to start chemotherapy and needs what I call dragon strength. You know, you kind of need that really inner strength to pull the strength from somewhere you didn't even know you had it. Yvette was very fond of the Game of Thrones series as well, so I kind of modelled it around, you know, the mother of dragons and how Daenerys had to find strength that she didn't know she had. And I guess you need a lot of that when you're going through chemotherapy. So I started this purple shawl, and the skein I had is actually quite a bit bigger than, it had a lot more yardage than the original one I had. And so I've made the pattern bigger, and I'll update the pattern to include the bigger size. And when I was at her memorial service, I hadn't finished knitting the shawl then. I was speaking to her mum, and I just really felt I needed to give it to her mum. So I said to her mum, I've got something for you that I want to finish, and then I want to give it to you. So I blocked it last night. And so there's the finished shawl. It's got this kind of dragon stitch pattern for the body. I block mine fairly aggressively, so it comes out sort of quite airy. And then the edges are to look like the wings, see the points on the wings of dragon wings. And I mean, I doubt that, you know, this colour purple is really her mother's a favorite color or something that she would even wear out of the house. But that isn't really the point of it. The point of it is that those that are grieving grieve for so much longer than the world almost gives you recognition for. The world so often and so quickly goes back to normal. Everybody carries on like nothing's happened. And I suppose our family had a personal experience of this when my sister-in-law died a couple of years ago, and she was only 27. And I watched my husband and his mom and his family deal with losing somebody so young. And I don't think you ever recover from losing a child. I think that just changes you in so many ways. But what was so hard was how quickly everybody just gets on with doing everything, just go back to normal, and I needed her mom to know that the people that understand that it doesn't go back to normal for her, and it certainly doesn't go back to normal quickly. And when everyone else seems to have moved on and stopped talking about it and just carried on with their everyday lives, that she may just need a reminder that people know how hard grief is and how long grief can take, and that she may just want to, you have something that's purple like Yvette liked, just to pull around her and just sort of feel that sense of people know and people care for her and people understand how long the grief process can take. So I'll put some links to the free Dragon's Hope shawl in the show notes. And as I said, I'm going to update the pattern to include the figures for the larger size, because I kind of just wanted Mom really to be able to pull some around her and feel kind of the embrace of people just caring about her, really. So that was my finished object I'm going to share this time with you. And I'll leave some of the other things that I've been doing and planning and my 1,000 works in progress for next time, when I kind of do more structured segments and all the rest. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye and thank you for watching. Please get in contact. Let me know what you thought of the show, what you'd like to see in future, if there are things about South Africa that you'd like to know. And as I said, I'm hoping to include a sort of a regular segment about South Africa around the patterns I'm designing at the moment. And then just some of the general things that I'm knitting and doing at the moment. So thank you for watching. I will put links to the Ravelry group where I'll put this up. Please come and say hi, tell me what you thought. My username on Ravelry is Pink Hair Girl. I'll put my email address and various contact details, and I'd really love to hear from you. Thank you very much. Bye for now.